Well, U.S. President Donald Trump says he is terminating trade negotiations with Canada following new anti-tariff ads from the Ontario government that feature the voice of former U.S. President Ronald Reagan. Let's get more insight on this from Goldy Hyder, President and CEO of the Business Council of Canada. Goldy, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Your initial reaction when you heard what Trump had to say?
So close yet so far. We've been making tremendous progress. I think the effort that the Prime Minister has made to endear himself to President Trump, to get to know him and to engage with him had paid off, because both the leaders had been able to instruct their negotiators to kind of expedite things, because otherwise Canada was going to come much later in the roster, if you will, because we had waited to get into that, partly because we have CUSMA and we have a pretty good tariff rate for most of our economy. A lot of progress was being made, but yes, it was being made specific to steel, to aluminum, and to energy. No one was keeping that a secret. That's what was being discussed. And then I think you see a scenario where really, every province and every premier that has the fiduciary duty to the electorate that voted for them is saying, what about me? What about my issues? And in an attempt to get in on that, particularly on autos, given the importance of autos to our economy, we find ourselves in a situation now where things have been, and I'm mixing metaphors here, but they've been derailed. Now the question is, can the Prime Minister put it back on track? Can he take charge and be the general in this trade war the way the Americans are managing this? The President speaks. You don't hear governors speak. You barely even hear their secretaries speak, with the exception of one or two. It is really important that we come together and we have a Team Canada response to this, and that our Prime Minister can leverage that relationship as the President and he meet at least run into each other at APEC, if not now formally meet, to try and get things back on track.
Now, do you think he can rein in Ford? Ford's been a bit of a wild card through a lot of this. Do you think he can rein him in?
Well, look, as I said, there's a trade war going on here, and we need a general. We can't have 13 generals. We need to be a country that is working together. And I am as proud as Canadian as anybody else, and my emotions were also, out of joint and so forth. But take a look at a map. Geography suggests that the United States of America is going to be our neighbor forever. We have to have a trade relationship with them that functions, not just for them, but for us. And we have to do it in collaboration with Mexico, because we've been doing it for the last several decades that way. And business communities would like to see an approach to strengthen North America. That can only come if we put our particular parochial, narrow, interests of cities, provinces, and even a country aside to think bigger picture about how is it that we're going to be able to compete with the rest of the world, because North America is the greatest continent in the world. We do have the best people, the best resources, the best companies, the best markets. We're getting in our own way here, and we've got to stop that from happening so we can find a way forward. And let's not lose sight of the fact that this is actually the short game. The long game is about making sure that we can review and renew the USMCA. And if this is the way we're going to be going about the short-term stuff, it's going to make it really hard for our country and for our federal leadership to be able to put forward a united front. And that's what's going to be necessary to be able to get into this battle that we're in and emerge victorious, more importantly.
Okay, we're almost out of time, but I want to ask one quick question. Your thoughts on the fact the Prime Minister is trying to get a meeting on the sidelines next week in Asia with Xi?
I think it's important that the Prime Minister and the President, formally, informally, whatever the case is. And listen, one thing about President Trump, he moves on. He can change his mind. He can do a lot of things. And so he's entirely capable of saying, yeah, something got the better of me, and I'm really upset about that ad because it turned out, and we'll let the historians debate how accurate it is or isn't. But it's unhelpful, clearly. And I think we should take a look at the United States. You don't see governors filling the airwaves every day talking about the impact the tariffs are having on their states. We've got to come together, and we've got to fight for Canada together.
All right, Goldy, I got to cut you off there. My apologies, but thank you very much for joining us today.
I know how it works. Thank you for having me.
Goldy Hyder is President and CEO of the Business Council of Canada.